Traffic officials are pleading with South Africans to prevent drunk driving this festive season. At this time of the year, road accidents multiply with more motorists reported to be driving under the influence. For more on this, we are now joined by the founder and director of South Africans Against Drunk Driving, Caro Smit. Caro, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Before we speak about some of the safety tips when it comes to road safety during this period, tell us about the organization that you started and why you started this organization.
I am an alcohol and drug educator and counselor, and I have for all the years been very, very distressed at the number of people who overdrink in South Africa and the number of crashes that occur and the incredible damage it does to people and families. And then unfortunately in 2005, my precious child was killed by someone who'd been drinking, then driving. So I just thought, I have all this knowledge, I cannot sit back, I am so angry, I am so sad, and I just don't want this to happen to anybody else. So I started South Africans Against Drunk Driving.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Caro, as you know, without fail, during this period of the year, we see an increase in the number of fatalities. The Minister of Transport, Barbara Creecy, says that she's targeting to reduce the number of fatalities on our roads by at least 50% by the year 2030. Do you think that it's possible? How do we get there?
You know, I am totally traumatized at this time by the number of deaths. And the only thing that we can do to get there is to actually declare these road crashes as a national disaster. I mean, we think about it, President Ramaphosa has declared a national disaster about the number of children who have been poisoned. And that is wonderful. We need to look into it. But do you know that 92 children die every single month on our roads? All right. 276 children die every year on our roads. 11,800 people die every year on our roads. And if you just look at this Christmas season, we are going to lose the equivalent of 27 large buses of people dying in those buses. Now, I mean, if one bus crashes, people are traumatized. We're losing 228 buses equivalent crash every single year in South Africa. So why is this not declared a national disaster? So Minister Creecy, yes, the way to get the 50% is to work with Parliament, work with Department of Justice, make them see that these, you know, if someone has committed a crime and say they have killed someone because they've been drinking and driving, they must go to jail. If somebody has a drunk driving conviction, they must get a criminal record and they must get a fine and the license must be suspended. If somebody is using their cell phone, huge fine. If someone is speeding, you know, speeding is one of our main causes of death. And the whole fact is that we've been talking for a long time, according to what internationally they say we must do, is reduce the speeds, 100 kilometers on highways, 50 kilometers in urban areas, 30 kilometers around schools. So if the minister works with the president, works with Department of Health, just think the poor Department of Health, these doctors and nurses, these people, these smashed people are coming into the emergency wards. Think of the trauma for those doctors. Think of the trauma for the families. Think of the incredible cost to the state for the health system. And no wonder our health system is not coping at all with all these deaths and injuries. Okay, now let's look. So if we look at, for one person who dies, okay, they're dead, they can't go to hospital. 20 to 50 others are injured and they end up in the hospital. So this is 30,000 to over 50,000 every year who are injured. So we have to have health involved. We have to have social development involved, because when a person is killed, and it's usually a man because men die 4 to 1, if he's a breadwinner, The family is then often thrown into poverty or further into poverty. They then have to rely on social grants. So that goes into social development. We've got to look at mental health. If somebody dies, it traumatizes us families left behind. Depression comes in, there's mental health issues. So everybody has to work together. It's got to be a national disaster that goes to Parliament, that is dealt with by everybody together and by enforcing the laws. We have some of the best laws in the world, but our enforcement is so terrible. Our conviction rate is even more abysmal. And, there are solutions. There are very, very clear and easy solutions to get down these deaths and injuries if we just apply them.
Okay, so Caro, if you were to declare, if the president was to say that, okay, I'm convinced that we should declare road accidents and fatalities as a national disaster, what sort of intervention should we be seeing then? Also considering, once again, as you put it, that we have some of the best laws, but the problem is with enforcement. So even if you do come up with the new regulations under a national disaster, what guarantee do we have that road users will actually adhere to those new restrictions?
Don't worry about talking about road users adhering to everything. That's what we ask every year. Please obey the laws. Please be careful. That's got nothing to do with it. It's actually the government's responsibility to make people adhere to rules. So the only way they're doing that is you catch people. So if someone is not wearing a seat belt, fine them. If they haven't got their children buckled up in the back or their passenger, fine them heavily, because 50% of the people in crashes would 50% of people who not, so seatbelts save a huge number of people. 50% of the people don't wear seatbelts and they die, they get thrown out of vehicles. So enforce the seatbelt use. Enforce that people don't use cell phones. Cell phone use is terrible. Make sure that people are tested for alcohol every single day of the year. I mean, on Monday morning, people have watched soccer and maybe they've drunk, say, 4 big quarts of beer. They will still be over the legal limit on Monday morning and driving badly. So just enforcing the rules, making sure then that we should make special traffic courts. We had special traffic courts in the World Cup. Why can we not have special traffic courts now? So that speeding people, drink driving, cell phone use goes straight to court, licenses are suspended, fines are given, so that people then get afraid of actually doing the wrong things, because at the moment, nobody's scared. People, you drink and drive, who's going to get caught? If I get caught, I just give a bribe. Seatbelt use, they drive past people, nobody's wearing seatbelt, no one talks about it. People speed. What are the consequences? We've got to have enforcement and consequences so that people do not do this.
Caro, what do you think about establishments that sell alcohol and liquor to some people and drivers who are visibly drunk and over the limit, but still sell them the alcohol?
I think it's criminal. Yeah. Overseas, they criminalize it. If you sell alcohol to someone who's intoxicated, who then has a crash, that person at the bar is then charged, and they can even go to jail for it. So we're seeing profit in South Africa, profit in selling goods. We're not looking at the consequence. Alcohol is causing enormous damage to our society. Alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
If you're drinking small amounts and you're drinking at home, you're not drinking and driving, alcohol use is fine. It's the alcohol abuse. And as we know in South Africa, unfortunately, when people drink, most people drink, drinking enormous amounts. They binge drink. They're drinking, that's harming their bodies, it's harming their families, gender-based violence. It's behind a large proportion of our road crashes. And Eldrin, remember, they're not called accidents. Drunk driving is not an accident. It's a preventable crime. They are they're called crashes because, I had an accident. I didn't mean to. They're preventable crashes. and we've got to all work together. We've got to be angry. We've got to be furious and just say this is not acceptable. We have to stop this road carnage.
Caro, thank you so much for your time. Caro Smit is the founder of South Africans Against Drunk Driving.